Hello everybody, I am Dr. R. Sabita, working in ECE department. Today's topic is boundary conditions. So here we are going to discuss types of medium and the definition for the boundary conditions and what are the different types of boundary condition exist and the boundary conditions specifically for the field, which is your electric field. First we have to define what I mean by boundary conditions. So before that we have to discuss what I mean by a media and what is meant by homogeneous medium and heterogeneous medium. So normally an electromagnetic wave travels in the medium which may be a homogeneous medium or a heterogeneous medium. Homogeneous medium in the sense it is made up of the materials having the uniform properties throughout. Heterogeneous medium in the sense the medium is made up of the materials having different properties. So when it travels through the heterogeneous medium, it undergoes different phases of transmission. That is your heterogeneous medium. We are going to look at the conditions of EM waves when it passes through a heterogeneous medium. The heterogeneous medium may be of the same medium, that which is your dielectric to dielectric, when it is moving from dielectric to dielectric. Also the one medium may be a conductor, the other medium may be a dielectric. One medium may be the conductor, another medium may be a free space. We can better give the examples of homogeneous medium as the fiber optic cable, which is having the uniform properties throughout. But when you consider a heterogeneous medium, the sand and the soil, which is a combination of sand and soil, water and glass, so those are the examples of heterogeneous medium. You are going to discuss when the field exists in the medium, which is your heterogeneous medium, what are the conditions to be satisfied, which constitute a boundary conditions for the field. Now you are specifically moving on to E field. Boundary condition E field. First condition is this EM wave is moving from one dielectric to another dielectric. How will you differentiate the first dielectric to another dielectric? When they have different permittivities, as it is mentioned here, it is epsilon 1 for the first dielectric permittivity and epsilon 2 is the permittivity of the second dielectric. Epsilon 1 is equal to the epsilon naught into ER1. Same way epsilon 2 is equal to epsilon naught into ER2, which is your absolute permittivity. Epsilon R1 and epsilon R2 are the relative permittivities. So you can write epsilon 1 is the multiplication of absolute permittivity and the relative permittivity of the first medium. Same way we can calculate it for epsilon 2. For finding out the boundary conditions, we have to place a spill box or a contour, any contour on the boundary between both the dielectrics. Assume the width of the contour is del W and the height of the contour is del H. If you see the diagram, one portion of the contour is above the medium, that is lying in the epsilon 2, another portion is lying below the boundary. And you can give the paths to be, it is A, B, C, D, which is a coverage, contour coverage line, A, B, C, D. If you see the directions, A to B is opposite to C to D. Same way, D to A is opposite to B to C. And also if you see the fields, that is the E fields, because you want to concentrate more on E field. It's been divided into the tangential component in the first dielectric, and also the normal component in the first dielectric. The tangential component is parallel to the boundary. Normal component is perpendicular to the boundary or normal to the boundary. Same way, the field E2, that is the field that exists in the second medium, it's been divided into the tangential component and the normal component. So ET2 represents the tangential component and E2n represents the normal component in the medium 2, and the resultant of this is the field that exists in the mediums E1 and E2. We have to remember the directions, that is A to B, B to C, C to A and D to A of the closed contour, because while writing the equations for the field, that is electric field intensity and electric flux density, we have to remember the directions. Two main equations that are used here are the electric field intensity over a closed contour, which is over a closed contour A, B, C, D, A, again to A, of the vector E is equal to 0. Summation of all the vectors, E vectors, over the contour A, B, C, D, A is equal to 0. So, because you know already the tangential components are E1t and E2t. The normal components are E1n and E2n. You remember the directions also. Remember the directions also for mentioning either it is positive or negative. So it is E1t field is traveling tangentially. So the tangential length is del W. So E1t into del W minus E1n del H by 2. E1n del H, that is the normal component in the first medium. Because it is going down, you are mentioning it as minus here. And why you have taken del H by 2? It is above the boundary. So the height being divided. So it is half of the height del H by 2. And minus E2n del H by 2. So that is E2n is the normal component in the second medium, minus E2t into del W. That is the tangential component in the second medium, which is opposite to E1t. So here if E1t is positive, this is negative. Same way E2n into del H by 2. It is going upward. E1n into del H by 2. It is going upward. You sum it everything, then that whole value is equal to 0 according to integral over the closed surface E dot dl is equal to 0. So if you solve it, all the plus and minus will go off. So you are getting E1t into del W minus E2t into del W is equal to 0. All the del H components will be going off because you want to find out your E field at the junction of two medium. So del H is equal to 0 everywhere. So wherever del H components are there, you put del H is equal to 0. So the entire second, third, fifth and sixth will go off. So you are getting only the tangential components. So you can write E1t is equal to E2t because you are making del W is equal to 0. So del W is equal to 0, then the tangential component of E field at the boundary is not undergoing any change. There is no component or no factor to which this E field is getting multiplied. So you can say ET undergoes no change of the boundary and it is continuous across the boundary. So that is the conclusion for dielectric to dielectric boundary conditions. Next, coming to the electric flux density. So you very well know that E1t is equal to E2t. You know the expressions relating electric flux intensity with the electric field intensity. So it is epsilon into D is equal to E. So this E can be written as D divided by epsilon. So it is E1t is equal to E2t can also be written as D1t divided by epsilon 1, which is equal to D2t divided by epsilon 2. So you can write epsilon 2 into D1t is equal to epsilon 1 into D2t. So here if you see the flux densities D1t and D2t are multiplied by the constant epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. So depending on which medium, which dielectric you are using, this epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 are varying. So you can say the tangential component of D undergoes some change across the boundary because it should be multiplied by the factor epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. So you can say it is D vector is said to be discontinuous across the boundary. So the boundary, what about the boundary conditions for the normal field? The boundary conditions for the normal components can be obtained by applying again the Gauss law in terms of flux density on a small pillbox shaped volume as in the figure. Again same pillbox being you are putting it over the interface. So it is integral over a closed surface d dot ds is equal to q. So d is electric flux density and ds vector is surface, differential surface. So this can be split into again a normal component and the normal component. So it is d1n into del s minus d2n into del s is equal to del q, because this d surface been divided into the normal component in the first medium and normal component in the second medium. Because they are in the opposite directions here, if one is positive, the other one is negative. So that is equal to, the summation of both is equal to the charge enclosed in that. Since you are taking only the elemental surface, here you are considering only the del amount of charge, elemental charge. So this can be equated to rho s into del s. So while considering either the surface charge or volume charge, you have to take only the charge densities instead of single charge. So the charge distributed over a surface. So it is rho s into del s. Here you are assuming the height h is equal to 0. So you can write d1n minus d2n is equal to rho s. So this is the diagram. You can split the electric flux density into the tangential and the normal component as the previous one, and the resultant of that, the tangential component and the normal component in the first medium will give you the electric flux density of the first medium d1. Same way you are representing the tangential component which is parallel to the interface and normal component perpendicular to the interface, the resultant of will give you the electric flux density in the second medium. So your conclusion here is d1n is equal to d2n is equal to rho s. So since there is no free charge exists at the boundary, rho s equal to 0. That is the condition for a dielectric. No free charge exists at the boundary. So you can write d1n is equal to d2n. So what is the inference you are getting out of this? The n represent the normal component, 1 and 2 the suffix represent the first medium and the second medium. So from this equation the inference is normal component of D are equal at the boundary. Next, what is its relation with the electric field intensity you are going to find out. So dn undergoes no change, that is normal component of the electric flux density undergoes no change at the boundary and it is continuous across the boundary. That is the inference you are getting. Same way you as previous, you have to relate the field intensity with the flux density. So D can be written as epsilon 1 into En1, epsilon 2 into E2n for D2n. So E1n divided by E2n is equal to epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1. Just shuffling the components. So what's the inference you are getting out of this? The normal component of D undergoes some change across the boundary. Why it is so? Because E1n is multiplied by epsilon 1 and E2n multiplied by epsilon 2. So because epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 are varying with respect to the dielectric medium, so you can write they are not constant. So dn is said to be discontinuous across the boundary. So that is the inference we are getting. So this is the diagram that shows the includes all the components, that is tangential component, normal component, what angle it is making with the normal component, that is theta 1 and theta 2. So here if you see d1n, d1t and the resultant will give you d1, and same way et1, e1t, e1n will give you e1. Same way you can do it for the second medium also. So when you draw a perpendicular line that is making an angle of theta 1 with the first electric field intensity, there is the electric field intensity in the first medium, and it makes an angle of theta 2 with the electric field intensity of the second medium. So you can write E1t is equal to E2t. So you can write it with the angles sin theta 1, sin theta 2, and same way for the flux densities cos theta 1 and cos theta 2. And substitute instead of d1 epsilon 1 into e1, d2 epsilon 2 into e2. And combining equations 1 and 2, you can very well write that tan theta 1 divided by tan theta 2 is equal to epsilon r1 divided by epsilon r2. So epsilon r1 is the relative permittivity of the first medium, epsilon r2 is the relative permittivity of the second medium. So this ratio of the tangential angles of theta 1 and theta 2 is called the law of refraction. Why it is called the law of refraction is because the signal may be entering from the first medium to the second medium, may be also entering from the second medium to the first medium. It is not getting reflected back. So this is called law of refraction. So these are the references I have used. Thank you very much for your listening.